Stay safe, reduce your contacts. Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead. Aherne. Today's top stories. The quarantine list could be expanded to 40 or 50 countries under laws being considered by in the Dáil. There was a slight increase in the level of COVID-19 in Waterford last week, while in sport, Ireland and Munster have named their teams to play this weekend. The France and Scotland Six Nations encounter is off. The government will consider adding more countries to the mandatory hotel quarantine list later. The legislation allowing the new restrictions to be enacted is being debated in the Dáil, while the government awaits further advice from NPHET. Here's our political correspondent, Sean Defoe.
The vast majority of the opposition believe the proposed mandatory quarantine laws for countries on a high-risk list don't go far enough. Sinn Féin's Pierce Doherty among the many calling for quarantine for all non-essential trips into the country.
It makes no sense to people that they can't travel beyond 5 kilometres, yet those who travel to Ireland on their holidays can arrive in this state virtually unimpeded.
Health Minister Stephen Donnelly will meet with the Deputy CMO Dr Ronan Glynn later to discuss adding more countries to the existing high-risk list of 20. He says the legislation being passed through the Dáil will give them the chance to significantly expand the amount of countries on that mandatory quarantine list.
The approach we are looking at here says it could indeed be 30, 40, 50 countries, so long as it is public health advice based on evidence.
Meanwhile, Taoiseach Micheál Martin will take part in an EU Leaders Summit this afternoon aimed at speeding up the vaccine rollout across the bloc and discussing the wider issue of border controls. Sean Defoe, Leinster House.
A Waterford restaurateur says he understands why businesses are tempted to open despite current restrictions. It's still unclear when the hospitality sector will be allowed reopen. Vincent Pettit from 360 Cookhouse in Dungarvan spoke to Damien Tiernan on Daisha today.
It is food on the table. It is roofed over people's heads. It has gone on for so long, and the frustration, it's not frustration, it's absolute worry and concern and desperation. And so I could fully understand it. And that's why the supports that are in place, there needs to be greater clarity on that. People need to know that they can rely on it, not just in the short term, but in the medium term, until society really does begin back to give a better sense of normalcy.
A Tramore parent says her children are devastated they won't be back at school next week. Lisa Moran has 4 children of a school-going age and only one of them will be returning to school next week. Speaking to Damien Tiernan, Lisa says she was extremely disappointed with the government messaging.
I have 4 children waiting to return to school, and out of those 4, I have 1, my adult son, returning to school. The Taoiseach made his big announcement. I turned it off after the first couple of minutes. He just regurgitated everything that Leo Varadkar had already leaked 2 weeks prior. I mean, we're looking at the government for leadership. We aren't getting that. And right now, I'm not even sure who's in charge.
The level of COVID-19 in Waterford increased slightly last week. That's according to the latest epidemiology report from the Health Protection Surveillance Centre. The 7-day incidence rate increased from 128 cases per 100,000 people to 137. It's after 160 cases were confirmed in Waterford between the 14th and the 20th of February. Nationally, the incidence rate was 116 per 100,000. The median age of cases in Waterford also dropped to 29 years of age. 8 counties had higher incidence rates than Waterford last week. A safety manager with a pilot training college says it's not unusual for airports to change their operating hours. Waterford Airport will be closing at 6 p.m. each evening instead of 9 p.m. for 5 weeks from the 11th of March. It's due to a reduction in air traffic services personnel. The airport, however, will be available without delay to the Coast Guard helicopter Rescue 117. Philip Smythe is safety manager with Atlantic Flight Training. They have a base in Waterford and he says they're not concerned by any temporary changes in hours.
We always find with Waterford that any time they have to make any amendments, they'll give us plenty of notice, and that's great. We've got a very good collaborative working structure with Waterford Airport, both with management and with the operations and air traffic control. Once we get sufficient notice, we can modify our operations accordingly. So in the long term, it doesn't affect us, and certainly a temporary change in operating hours for a 5-week period isn't anything of significance.
Several roads in the Ballyduff area of West Waterford are expected to remain closed until at least tomorrow. It's after a significant volume of water entered the River Blackwater. The N72 approaching Lismore from Cappoquin at Ballyrafter has reopened. Gabriel Hines is Senior Roads Engineer with the local authority, and he says thankfully there's been no significant damage to properties.
At the Ballyrafter and Lismore, water levels are at thresholds for the local properties there, but my information at the moment is in Lismore, at that location, that the properties have not been flooded. In Ballyduff, there's one property in particular vulnerable as well, and my current understanding is that sandbags and the owner has maintained to keep the residents free from floodwater at this point in time. So I think the major impact at the moment is in relation to the road network.
The Chief Operations Officer at Nearform says the creation of a COVID tracker app has opened doors for the company globally. The tech outfit, headquartered in Tramore, is nominated in technology and innovation at tomorrow's Waterford Business Awards. Larry Breen says collaboration with the HSE and Enterprise Ireland has played a big part in the international recognition of the app.
With the app itself, obviously, we've been able to take it across multiple countries. So again, working in collaboration with the HSE. So the HSE, obviously, we did the initial build with. They open sourced it and made it available to any other country who was also, wanted to take it on board to deal with their whole COVID response, which was brilliant. We've also had a lot of support from the likes of Enterprise Ireland as we've sort of allowed the rest of the world to see what's possible from these technologies. And we've had a whole bunch of countries, both this side of the pond and the other, that obviously picked up the app and actually run with it.
2 new bridges are set to be installed at a popular walking area in Tramore. The steel creations will replace the old wooden structures in Newtown Woods and will be put in place once COVID-19 restrictions allow. However, the new bridges have been described as eyesores after Waterford Council posted pictures online. Fine Gael's Lola O'Sullivan sought more information from Director of Services Fergus Galvin at the most recent Metropolitan meeting.
There's 2 new bridges to be set up at the Newtown Woods, which I welcome. I think it's going to be a great addition. I'd like some information on those.
Councillor Sullivan's questions in relation to we are replacing 2 of the bridges in Newtown Woods, and we would hope to undertake that work this spring.
WLR Sport.
With Virgin Media, George's Street, Waterford. 1 gig broadband from Virgin Media. The fastest just got faster.
A very good afternoon from the sports desk. I'm Nigel Kelly. We'll start with rugby and the Six Nations, where the Ireland team has been named to face Italy in the match in Rome for this weekend. There are 7 changes to the side that lost to France in the previous round. Captain Johnny Sexton returns at out half, with Will Connors named in the back row, and Jordan Armour getting the nod on the right wing. While James Ryan returns in the second row, and there's an entirely new front row of Ronan Kelleher, who makes his first start, alongside the props of Dave Kilcoyne and Tyke Furlong. While Craig Casey and Ryan Baird are in line to make their first appearances off the bench, and head coach Andy Farrell is looking for his first win of the 2021 campaign. And the Six Nations match between France and Scotland has been postponed. The match, which was scheduled to take place at the Stade de France in Paris this Sunday, was under threat after an attack of COVID-19 in the France squad. This morning, an 11th player tested positive for the virus, leading to a cancellation of the squad's training session this morning. And tournament organisers say they will announce a new fixture date in due course. While the England head coach Eddie Jones has recalled Jamie George and Mark Wilson for their game against Wales in Cardiff. George Ford starts at 10 once again, with Owen Farrell named at inside centre. Leicester's George Martin is set to make his debut after being named on the bench. While in provincial news, the Munster team has been named for Friday night's Pro 14 clash against Cardiff Blues at the Cardiff Arms Park. There are 6 changes to the starting 15 that defeated Edinburgh last time out, and the opening try scorer in Murrayfield last weekend, Waterford's Jack O'Donoghue, captains the side, as well as Chris Clute and Jack O'Sullivan joining him in the back row. While if sprung from the bench, Billy Holland will move ahead of Ronan O'Gara for an all-time Munster appearances and become the second most capped player for the province for his 241st appearance in red. But the biggest news will be the sight for sore eyes return of Joey Carberry, who was named among the replacements by Johan van Gran. The fly half could see his first game time since January 2020 if he makes an appearance. While in soccer, Man United, Arsenal, Leicester and Rangers will all look to join Tottenham in the last 16 of the Europa League later tonight. United lead Real Sociedad 4-0 heading into their second leg at Old Trafford. While it's 1-1 between Arsenal and Benfica going into this evening's second leg, which will be played in Greece. Arsenal have an away goal there, and it's scores between Leicester and Slavia Prague, while Rangers have a 4-3 advantage over Royal Antwerp. Never Gaelic Games, where the Waterford Camogie team are hosting a virtual walk to Crook Park this Saturday, with the squad asking as many people as possible to get involved. The team are hoping to raise €10,000 to fund training costs for the year, and the team captain Niamh Rockett has more details.
So you can go to Waterford Camogie Facebook page, or else you can go to our Twitter page as well. What we're doing at the moment is that they're trying to gather a bit of momentum with it, and they're donating €5 and nominating 5 others. So that's kind of drawn a good bit of momentum around, and thankfully the younger girls on the younger teams have really come on board with it as well, and are really getting involved. So it's great to see, and I think it's kind of giving someone to aim towards, and something to kind of look forward to as well. Give us as a group something to look forward to as well this Saturday.
While in golf, Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry are in the field for the WGC Workday Championship in Florida. Padraig Harrington and Seamus Power are also playing at the Puerto Rico Open this weekend. While in horse racing, there is a national hunt car today at Thurles, with the first one off there at 2:20. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media, Waterford.